In the previous video, we talked about the benefits of being with a community of other practitioners, provided that we act like a community of practitioners and that we support one another's practice and do not act in such a way as to drag each other into worldly subjects. But at the end, we come back to the point that one's practice is always one's individual responsibility, that even if others around us are not taking the practice seriously, it's still up to us to take the practice seriously. It's our aim, it's our life. We cannot change how others practice. We can support them, we can help them if we can, but we cannot change what they think, what they say, or what they do. Nor can we depend on others to support us in the terms of the practice, because our practice is always our own responsibility. And somebody who is serious in their aim, regardless of external conditions, will do what has to be done to bring themselves towards their aim. We come back to this point again and again, that if your aim is clear, your actions, all your actions, lead you towards your aim, should lead you towards your aim. And that includes, of course, putting yourself into the right conditions in order to be able to work well towards your aim. In this case, ending defilements, putting an end to suffering within yourself, the goal of the Buddha's teaching. Ajahn spoke about how in the material world, when people have an aim, it doesn't matter how impossible it seems or how almost ridiculous it is, they manage to do what has to be done to achieve their goal. And there are hundreds and thousands of examples that we could take everywhere in the world. But just now he was giving the example of the Channel Tunnel, the tunnel that has been dug under the English Channel between England and France. So a train track in a tunnel built under the sea. So right at the beginning, if somebody announces that they want to build a tunnel underneath the sea going from England to France and make a train to run there, it sounds like a really daunting project, almost impossible. And yet they managed to do it, and now it's there. And somebody had to be responsible for that project, in charge of it. There had to be a chief engineer who was responsible for making it happen. And so Ajahn was using this as an analogy for the type of mindset that one has to have in the practice when you're responsible for reaching your aim, when you take responsibility for reaching your aim. So he said that one's mindset should be like that of the chief engineer in regard to this project that was in charge of making the channel from England to France. For example, can this head engineer allow himself to forget about his goal? Or can he depend on others, wait for others to tell him everything that he has to do? Can he neglect to supervise some aspect of the work that is being done in the tunnel? No, he cannot. He cannot allow himself to do any of this because he is responsible. He is the one who is in charge. He has to have the goal constantly in mind. He has to be watching progress everywhere, have his eye everywhere. He has to be aware of every problem that arises and be sure that it's corrected. And though for sure he has other people who are working with him on the project, it's ultimately only himself who is responsible of making sure that the tunnel is dug. Nobody else. So it's very different mindset from the guy who's just operating the machinery in the tunnel. He doesn't even need to know where he's going. It's somebody else who is in charge of directing the path he's on. He doesn't even need to have that in mind. He doesn't need to be aware of anything else. He's just mechanically doing the job that he was told to do. He's doing it for the money, or he's doing it because he likes the job, he enjoys the work, or maybe he's doing it for some other reason, like he likes the group of co-workers he's with and he plays cards with them at break time or something like that. So his is the type of mindset that we should not have when it comes to practicing meditation of the Buddha's teaching. It's a bit like somebody who says, yes, I like meditation, it makes me feel calm, it helps me be less stressed. I really like listening to monks talk, it's very interesting. So this is like somebody who's practicing not because they really need to reach the goal, but just because it sort of adds something to their life. And if at some point it becomes more difficult, it's less agreeable to practice, or the conditions are really not easy, not favorable, well, then you just automatically lose your practice because from the beginning you weren't that serious about it. But if you have from the beginning the mindset of the head engineer, then like him, you're not doing the work of practicing for any other reason than to reach the goal. So you cannot permit yourself to lose sight of the goal at any moment. And like him again, all the work that you do has to be directed by the goal that you're aiming for. Regardless of problems, regardless of obstacles. In fact, part of your job is to figure out how to overcome the obstacles. If the conditions are not good for practicing, you have to figure out how you can make them favorable for yourself. Even if you have a guide, which is very useful and almost, I would say, essential, in order to help you know when you're going wrong and to whom you can ask questions when you have doubt, well, you can't depend on him always to tell you everything that you have to do, or to see where you're going wrong, or, you have to do the work for yourself. He can guide you what direction you should work in, but it's yourself who has to do the work. And if you don't do it, if this is your aim, but you let time pass by and you procrastinate, careless in regard to the aim, then you will know later. Later on, you will know that it was only you who were to blame. It reminds me of the suttas with King Yama, the king of the dead, who says to the man who has just died, the one who has done wrong action, and he tells him, this wrong action was not done because of your mother or your father or any of your relatives. It was done by you alone, and only you will experience its results. So a bit like that, in the same way, whatever is left undone by ourselves, regardless of our circumstances at that time, we will not get the benefit of work that we did not do. So again, just to repeat, that the conditions can be more or less favorable for practicing externally, but once we have heard the teaching and been given an opportunity to practice, it is entirely up to us what we do with that opportunity.